who can help you with buying a car here in Portugal. He might have an expert view on the fact that we've reached 100,000 electric vehicles here in Portugal on the roads of Portugal. It's quite a Marmite subject, the electric vehicle still. So we'll see what Joao may have to say about that this evening. Just checking that we're going out on YouTube, and I'll be right with you, Dream Team. Yes, we are. Fantastic. All right, ladies first then. Sarah, are you cold or has your signal frozen up there?
Oh, can you hear me? Can
Oh,
you see me?
you're okay. I've got you
You all
again now.
right?
You look like you were like either technologically or literally frozen there now that the weather is cooling down a little bit in
No,
Portugal.
but that will be me next week because I'm heading back to the UK.
Oh, okay. Where it's snowing at the moment in the UK. I
Yeah,
bet you've got some pretty pictures from the folks back home, haven't you, of snow in the
I
UK?
have, but as I said, I think you become acclimatized. I've become
Yes.
acclimatized to the Portugal weather. I mean, this week, I mean, I'm sure it was 21 at one point.
Yeah. It's been a San Martino summer for sure. Not that's because where I live, but it is the Saint Martin summer, which is the late summer here in Portugal. It was true to the fable or legend this year. We had some lovely summery days basically in November. It's been fantastic. Got a bit cooler. It's been pouring down here this evening. This is your first winter, of course, Sarah, right? You're going into your first winter here in
It is
Portugal.
my first winter. And
Yes.
everyone's sort of saying how will you cope? But as I said, in comparison, I've come from the UK and I will be going home for Christmas, so hopefully that will mean that when I come back, it won't feel as cold here. But I think
Yeah.
one of the things they say, which I don't know what that's going to look like, is obviously the housing is different here. And for some houses, the insulation isn't as good. So that's probably what more people are talking about, is whether how warm it is going to be in your home.
Have people actually been saying that? How are you going to cope?
Yes.
Who says that?
Portuguese.
Oh, Portuguese people. That's right. Yeah, the poor, the poor English woman. How is she going to cope in a? I think you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
Actually, I think you're going to be fine. It's going to be interesting and educational, isn't it? Because it does go a little bit against some of the kind of ideas we have about moving to Portugal, right? Which is, it's hot a lot of the time, so it'll be the first time to experience a different kind of climate and environment, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Okay. Well, good luck. It just
Thank
sounds so
you. I'll
dramatic,
report
doesn't it?
back.
Yes. We'll see. Well, we hope to see you here every week to make sure you're okay in the Portuguese winter. Oh, and currency, of course. You're our special guest next week, to tell us about some of the changes that might have come about as a result of the US election, and yeah, a special next week. But in these last few days, how have things been for you in the world of
Well,
currency?
that's certainly a hotter topic.
Oh, hey! Oh, I see what you did there. Very good.
But yeah, I mean, at the moment, if you're selling US dollars and you're buying euros, it's very good time. At the moment, we're talking about, apart from when we hit parity in 2022, we're at levels that we last saw about 22 years ago. So it's a very good time to be selling your US dollars and buying euros. And that's sort of what we'll touch on a little bit more next week. But obviously, Trump being in could well be good for the US dollar. He's very much about helping the US economy. But there are things that he could do which could weaken the US dollar as well. For example, if he, obviously chatting to Putin and there's a ceasefire with Ukraine and Russia, what we'd seen previously is that when the war started, people, whenever there's kind of wars or things like that, people will move into what they call safe haven currencies, and the US dollar is one of those. So they'll start to pull out of the US dollar, which will weaken it. Then you've got things like, for example, that Trump wants to cut interest rates again to help the economy, but cutting interest rates can weaken the US dollar. So there's a few things that he could well do, with his policies that may well be good for the US economy, but might not be so good for the US dollar. It may weaken it. And
Yeah.
again, it's these sort of things that we're watching out for. But again, obviously there could be US dollar strength. So we're monitoring it. But I think if you're looking, I would say sort of look historically what levels we're at. So even if you bought earlier in the year and you think, oh, I wish I'd waited, you were still buying at 3-year highs. It's still very good levels. You're still buying at very good rates. Historically, obviously now we have got closer to sort of 104 and it's 22-year highs. So even if you haven't got a Portuguese bank account, because you might be sat there thinking, well, that's all well and true, but I've got nowhere to send the money. I've got nowhere to hold the money. I can't take advantage of the rates. We do have a facility where we can hold the euros for you, which means you can take advantage of the rate if you need to move euros to just pay for a NIF, your lawyer's fees, rental, buying a house, anything like that.
Very
You
good.
want to take advantage of the
All right, and we'll talk to you more next Thursday at 7:30 about this as well. And it's somewhat poignant, isn't it, that the price, a weakened dollar is the price of peace. But anyway, that now's not the time to be discussing that. But we'll talk certainly about the benefits of working with Spartan next week when you want to buy some euros with your dollars and other currencies, of course, that we can bring into the conversation next week. Thanks for being here, Sarah. Any other questions about currency, pop them in the chat and I will put them to Sarah. We have Carolina Moralia here from EI. Good evening to you, Carolina. How are you? Tudo bem?
Hi, good evening, everyone. Tudo bem, Carl? Thank you.
Casa Portuguesa, forgive me, Carolina Moralia. How are you doing? How is everything in your world this evening? And how's Cookie?
Oh, Cookie's very well. She's in the living room. Everything is going well. Do you have any special questions for me?
You know I do. You know I do. What's hot property-wise for rentals and buying around? Or what's come onto your radar as an interesting place? Or where are people asking you that might have surprised you when it comes to a location?
Um, I had a client. It's not a surprise, but Tomar is really getting some attention. It's
Yes.
very beautiful.
Well, expect the same in Battaglia next year because Expats Portugal are going there in February. So maybe that'll be a little bit of an interesting focus again, Casa Portuguesa inquiries. But thank you for that for the time being. So Tamar is a hotspot. Carolina can help you basically anywhere in Portugal, but it's interesting that Tamar should be on the map in that way. Any questions about renting or buying or finding a home, basically, here in Portugal? Carolina's here to answer those questions. Colleague of the Queen of the Visas, Gilda, who's here now. Good evening to you, Gilda.
Hello, good evening,
Hello, good evening
Carl.
to
Good
you. Oh,
evening,
nice
everyone.
scarf. Very nice scarf.
Thank you.
That makes
It
sense.
was a client that gave me.
Oh, okay, so those hints recently have seem to have worked, do they? That scarf you said you'd buy me. It suddenly arrived.
Exactly.
Okay, that's fantastic. So how are you this evening? How's the world of migration and visas?
Well, the world of migration is moving, is now having some baby steps in a positive way, as I keep saying every week, but because it is true. So hopefully next year, if nothing unexpected happens, we will have things more controlled.
Wonderful. Excellent news. Okay, so just things chugging along quite nicely then, processing things. The environment seems to be improving day by day, baby steps.
Yes.
Very good. There is something to add, and this is a very thoughtful message that's coming from Lorraine to the Expats Portugal team email address. Hey, Carl, just wanted to let you know that the Canadian postal strike for the mail was on the news today, and they have 85,000 passports waiting to be picked up. So the Canadian Post Office delay means that those 85,000 passports have been delayed. They decided not to send them in the mail, that's the Canadian government, due to the strike, so people will need to pick them up. If you're Canadian, that might be useful news to you, but they are expecting long queues and lineups for that. Christmas is coming and people want to travel home for holidays. So be aware of that if you are Canadian. Thanks, Lorraine, for sending that news in to us. Thank you for being here, Gilda. Questions around visas and migration to Portugal, of course, for Gilda, pop them in the chat if you will. Let's go to Daniel, who's had a brief rest. Thanks for coming back, Daniel. How are you feeling?
I'm quite all right, thank you. And I'm still standing up, as you can see.
You're
It's
amazing.
good for my back. I do sit down quite a lot during the day, so I'd like to do either Teams calls or Zoom calls in standing up.
Right.
It was a fun webinar. As usual, you make things so easy, so thank you for that.
My pleasure.
And well, if anyone has any legal questions, shoot them in my direction. I'll do my best to answer them. Although I will probably only stay here until around 9:30, 9:35.
Totally understandable.
We
Absolutely.
have
Well,
to get something to eat.
And
Otherwise,
finally sit down today. And I was
and
looking at
nervous.
Shilda's face, wondering if she's going to be implementing the standing up desk over at EI HQ. I wonder. We'll come back to her on that. No, no. What? It's like, why would I do that? Right. Okay. Daniel says Emma says Emma. I watched your presentation
What
today.
are you talking about?
Standing
What
up.
did I miss?
Daniel just did his webinar standing up, and he's here for another half hour standing up at his desk. I'm wondering if A or EIHQ might implement the same postural technology, if I may put it that way.
No.
As I suspected. Right, Daniel, back to you. I watched your presentation today. Thank you. What services? You said I did a good job, but actually, this is a big thing I missed, wasn't it? What services does your firm provide? I mean, you told everybody what they needed to do, but we didn't make the connection necessarily that you do all of those things. So could you put that right for me now?
Of course. Well, I didn't answer in writing what our usual services do entail. For property acquisitions, we usually charge a fixed fee, and this depends on what type of property is being acquired, where it's located, what type of contracts will need to be developed. So we set our fees on a case-basis situation. So it's difficult to discuss fees without seeing the actual property that is being acquired. But the list of our services is indeed there. We don't charge any separate fees apart from expenses, let's say issuing banking checks, notary fees, paying the taxes. So those types of expenses will be the client that will transfer the money to our client's account, and then we'll pay on their behalf. But so we include all calls, all emails, everything connected with negotiating the property acquisition, and the contract itself, the promissory purchase agreement, negotiating all the terms and conditions out of the contract, doing the due diligence of the property documents, and issuing a property report on the legal side. Things like the due diligence on the seller to see if they have any pending debts that we covered in the webinar. It's something that we do, and of course out of the property. So just to double check if the property is being bought on a safe manner. Then it's signing or if we have a power of attorney, we will be able to represent the client in the signature of the promissory purchase agreement. Or if the client is in Portugal, we will accompany the signature of the contract and actually notarize the contract. So again, the buyer is protected within the property acquisition. Pardon. Then we do represent the clients on the second stage of the property acquisition within preparing the deed and setting all that it's necessary with the notary and obtaining the documents to pay the taxes. So we prepare all the bureaucracy connected with the deed and the closing, and we represent our clients during the deed, because if the clients are in Portugal, the deed will be read out loud in Portuguese. But if they don't understand Portuguese, they will need a translator. So we act as translators of the deed, and of course as legal representatives to verify that everything is correct. If the client is not in Portugal, as with a big majority of our clients that occurs, well, we are the ones signing the deed on behalf of the clients, as well as doing all the payments connected with the property acquisition. Again, this is taxes, notary fees, and other minor expenses that may occur for the property acquisition. Finally, we do the registration out of the property in the client's name, in the tax department, in the tax bureau, and we do the communication to the housing association of the property. So this is what's usually included in our package, and it avoids the pitfalls that we discussed during the webinar to cover it all. That's basically it.
That's a great answer. And yes, those things, those do's and don'ts will be up on the Expats Portugal YouTube channel from this Sunday evening, 6 o'clock usually it's published. So you'll be able to see those there. I'm going to shorthand that as everything. and very well to do with buying property from a legal point of view. That's Daniel of Raising Pelicano there. So we'll come back to you ASAP because I know you've got to get away, but I need to say good evening to Nuno and João as well this evening. Nuno, how are you and how's the world of insurance? And I know you've got a VIP flying in soon as well, keeping an eye on the clock. So how are you this evening?
Pretty well, pretty well. Just to say that, sorry, but this is a scarf. This is a scarf.
What do you mean? Oh, not what Gilda's wearing.
Exactly, exactly. My scarf.
That can be put right, though. Gilda is not too old to join the Scouts, right? We'll talk about that later. Okay.
So the world of insurance is stable as we want to be. I saw news on a website to the expat community in Portugal with the wrong information about an advantage that companies have when they do a health insurance to their employers. So this is not so straightforward. So if this is your situation, just let me know and I will explain you. But take care and be aware that this is not so simple.
A bit of misinformation, possibly, allegedly, flowing around to a relief for businesses when it comes to insurance.
Yes, yes. And it's not possible wrong information. It's 100% wrong information.
Okay, all right. Right. Daniel's here. I was just trying to put that in terms that wasn't going to get you into any trouble, but you're quite certain. All right, fantastic.
No, if I'm in trouble, it's not me, it's my avatar that is talking.
Does that stand up in court, Daniel? Has anyone tried that defense yet? My avatar. Okay, right. Well, you know a good lawyer anyway. Right next to you on the screen from my point of view. Nuno, thank you for being here. Any questions about insurance, please, insurance and insurance, get them into the chat ASAP. João, last but not least, João Amarales here. Good evening. Good to see you. First question to you is, did you see the new Jaguar advertising campaign that came out? What did you make of that as somebody in the motor industry?
To be honest, I saw the one thing in Facebook or in Instagram, but I didn't open.
Okay.
For me, to be honest, Jaguar is dead for about 20 years.
For you and a lot of other people as of yesterday.
Yeah. Jaguar is completely lost. Is completely lost, as well as another brands in Europe.
Right.
Unfortunately, Jaguar, I think it won't survive.
And not something you would recommend necessarily in Portugal to buy then?
Maybe used ones, but you have to be careful because they have many problems with the engines and electrical problems, the newer versions. There are some engines that are good, but about 2010, 2015, and after that, it's a disaster.
How sad for a once great brand that should be the case. Debbie, who is also part of the Dream Team, honorary member, Debbie of the Dream Team, who might say something at around the half-past mark. I thought the Jaguar ad was a Saturday Night Live skit. Yeah, you could be forgiven for that. It really has divided people, sadly, there. And João, it was really great to hear you talking about up to that year, it's quite good. After that year, it's not so good. This is the level of detail and expertise you have when helping people buy cars, right? So it's not just the brands or the particular model. You know about the years as well, the vintage of the car to make sure they get a decent vehicle.
Yes, normally we know brands, models, engines very well.
Yeah.
Okay. Because we give warranties to our customers. Okay. Yeah. If I sell a car that is problematic, it's a problem for the customer and for us. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So we try to sell cars that are not so problematic. Okay. Or cars that we know the problems and we can solve it before we sell.
Yeah.
And even if it happens after we sell, we know it's cheap. We know people that can do that fix. Okay. But there are some cars that we don't want to sell. I can give you another English example.
Oh,
the Range Rover Evoque
is
a car that we won't sell.
Not any of them.
No.
Wow.
No.
Same
we
company,
don't want
isn't it?
To sell.
It's the same group, isn't it, as well?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
So we know
Perfect.
cars, we know brands, we know models, we know engines. So it's a service that we can provide for people that don't know cars in Europe and the brands. We can do that for them.
The due diligence. Eslan, thank you. Can you?
I'm sorry, I got a bit lost here. You wouldn't sell an Evoque?
Yes, we don't want to sell the Range Rover Evoque because it's very problematic.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's
There
one
you
of
go,
my
Gilda.
favorite cars. Thank you.
That's a freebie for you tonight. Isn't it great? Even the Dream Team gets Dream Team service.
Yeah.
On a Thursday at 9 o'clock. That's fantastic. Joao, for my benefit, if you could do me a big favor, and I think Gilda's as well, to be fair, if you could put your contact details for everybody to see in the chat, that would be fantastic. And you can be found, of course, in the business directory. So yeah,
I
pop them.
can put my email address. If
Perfect.
anyone wants to ask questions or something else, I will be glad to help.
Yeah, and you're happy to answer like one-off questions, aren't you? Like I'm thinking.
Yes, we are not here. We are not here just to sell. We are here to help people.
Wonderful.
If we sell, good. If we don't, good.
There you go. That, everybody, is the spirit. That's a very Portuguese approach and the spirit of the Dream Team on a Thursday evening. Thank you, Joao, for reiterating.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
A wonderful sentiment there to be sharing with us. That's excellent. Right. Hola, boa noite from Phyllis. Debbie in Coimbra. Boa noite from Coimbra. Your moment is coming up, Debbie. And Debbie of the Dream Team's reflection of the week. Tom Smith in Ohio, where it's a scorching +3 centigrade with the first snow over there. Take care. And hola, boa noite from the País de Gales. Pedro's here with us. And Connie, hola Carl, tudo bem? Muito bem, obrigado. Contigo. To you, Connie and Hank. Hello, everyone from La Ronda as well. And from MI, at the time of an IMA appointment, do I have to have a private health insurance or a travel insurance is sufficient? Right. Who's taking that? Is that Nunu or Gilda on that one? Gilda, you're being deferred to.
So for the IMA appointment, it's not a travel insurance. The travel insurance is for the visa. For the IMA appointment, it needs to be a health insurance, a private health insurance.
There you go. That's for Michael. Thank you very much for that, Gilda. And going to your colleague Carolina here, Tom is asking, what is the website for Casa Portuguesa? When I search for it, I get a Portuguese restaurant in Toronto. Now, that is going to happen, isn't it? Casa Portuguesa is a beloved Portuguese theme, of course. It's Amália and a song, isn't it? Dating back, I think, probably to the 60s, 1960s, possibly. Can you give us the website address? casaportuguesa.pt, right? Not .com or any other. Okay.
.pt, yes, but the site is under renovations, so it will appear a page saying some improvements are being implemented. Take a coffee and come back later.
Oh, okay.
So that's why you can see our website. But if you have any questions, please send me an email and I'll be happy to answer them.
There you go. Imagine that, people wandering into the restaurant looking for you in Toronto.
We are rebranding.
Yeah.
Portuguese.
Are you? Okay. So a bit of refurb going on within the company as well as some of the properties that they recommend. Carolina.muralha@casaportuguesa.pt. That's the important data to have, isn't it? The information to have to get in touch directly with Carolina at Casa Portuguesa there. The Nanu is here. Good evening to you. Yesterday I completed 1 whole year. Wow. 1 whole year's wait for the D2 visa approval. That's a lot of someone's life, isn't it? From India. And on Monday, I am resubmitting all the renewed documents asked by the embassy. As the holidays are coming up, I wonder how much time it will take to get approval now. That's a sad situation, isn't it, Gilda, for the Naunu there? Have you got any words of comfort on that?
Yes, it's a sad situation, but unfortunately it doesn't surprise me because it's in India and it's a D2, which is the most complex visa. But at least if he was asked to deliver new documents, it means that first, it was not refused. Secondly, they are looking at the process. I think that in the worst case scenario, 3 more months.
Okay, that's good to know. So the situation is refreshed by the renewed documents there, the Nanu. All we can say is fingers crossed for you and hope that resolves quickly. But a year is a long time to wait, isn't it? But as you say, not unusual necessarily over there in India. Just say no to Jags and Rovers, in my opinion. This is a terrible time, isn't it, for Jaguar? No one I know who has owned either has been happy with them. And I think that it was like the final death blow of people who would put up with unreliability for the brand's sake. They basically said goodbye yesterday, didn't they? Thank you, Joao, for the email address that you've put into the chat there. That's really helpful. Remember what Joao said, if you just need some help selecting a vehicle, they're there to help you. Hi, Daniel. That was an excellent seminar. So let's catch Daniel quickly then before you go. Daniel, perhaps this is the last question for you of the evening. What local property use restrictions, if any, are there if one wishes to use their residence in Portugal as a business, particularly as a self-employed person? This is a great question. I don't think it's come up before. What sort of considerations are there if you're working from home?
It's really interesting, and it's a nuanced situation. So if you're just working from home, you're doing home office, you're doing computer work, that's totally fine, and you can do it. It's not any type of activity that will need any special permits. But let's say that you are a jewel maker and you're doing the jewels from home. Well, if you're just doing it without creating any noise, I think that you can still do it without any major problems. But what if you buy machinery and then you're producing the jewelry from home and doing some noises connected with the production of jewelry? And this is where the nuance starts. If you're using the house to do anything that is not well, the common things that people use a house to sleep, to see to watch TV, to sit on the computer or stand as I'm doing now, well, then things are indeed not as they should. And if you have neighbors that will eventually complain, the activity that you're doing may be eventually shut down. So for people that want to have businesses that have an open door to the public, then definitely the type of property that you wish to have is one with a commercial licensing or with a utilization license that states that, well, it can be an office space or it can be, well, a commercial space where you sell bread, where you sell milk. So when it's a commercial activity, especially with an open door, that's something that a lot of buildings will have the commercial spaces on the ground floor, and then the upper floors will be for habitation. So it's nuanced, but if it's just home office, totally fine, not problematic at all. If you're selling products or if the activity that you are developing is something a little bit off the chart and is producing any inconveniences and noises to the neighbors, then the problems will start coming, and eventually the housing association may request you to stop doing that activity in a property that is tailored to inhabit. So it's a really interesting question, even for lawyers, because you'll see that a lot of law firms or lawyers that are sole practitioners will be doing it in, let's call it, normal properties to inhabit. So it's the second floor of a normal building, and you'll see the plaque of a lawyer.
Yes.
So there are situations that are nuanced. Can a lawyer do his practice in a normal property that is for habitation? Well, I would say yes, because it's a common standard practice in Portugal. You'll see a lot of lawyers well, basically working from home and having their law firm established from home. So it's indeed a really interesting question and nuanced, but for the activity that Diane is proposing, I would say that she is indeed in the clear and does not need any type of special permits.
And on this occasion, Diana, if you want to advertise what you'll be doing from home, you're very welcome to. It's up to you. Just a couple of quickies, Daniel, before you go and have a well-earned dinner and a sit down. Can you tell us if that's changed in any way if you're a tenant? Might that be an issue in your tenancy agreement about whether you can work from the property you're renting?
Well, if it's home office, no need to mention that in the tenancy agreement. If you're doing something a little bit different, then yes, eventually it should be mentioned in the rental agreement. So it does depend on the type of activity that you wish to develop. In some situations, I did have a client that had a really serious problem, and this was connected with a gym. He basically bought a place that was a gym already, and he bought the business and he bought the rental agreement, so everything was set up in place. But there's a special law for gyms that you need a special type of utilization license, and he had a major problem with the landlord, because the landlord, once they knew about this law, they wanted to cancel the tenancy agreement. So if, again, you're just working from home, doing home office, totally fine, doesn't need to be mentioned in the rental agreement. If it's something out of the ordinary, that it entails more than just working from a computer, please check with with the lawyer, with the landlord, if the activity is indeed allowed, and if you're not getting into some trouble with the housing association or with the landlord. So it's relevant to check before.
Great question, Diana. Great answers, as ever. I agree with everyone's praise of Daniel's presentation tonight, says Laronda. Most excellent. Final thing, Daniel, before you go, and this will make you hungry, I think. What's your favorite Portuguese cheese? We are the world champions at the moment. Which is your particular favorite?
Well, the amanteigado that you mentioned in the webinar is probably my favorite. I usually connect it with Christmas time. So yes, indeed, queijo amanteigado is lovely from Serra da Estrela, if you want to.
Very good. And that's the one, everybody, where you take the top off, and inside you've basically got a pot of cheese, and you dip your knife in, don't you? There's probably a special Portuguese cheese knife that goes in there, and then you pop it on a cracker or whatever, or straight in your mouth.
The better for me.
I bet some people eat it like Americans eat peanut butter, straight out of that cheese round, straight into their mouth. Daniel does. Thanks, Daniel. Muito obrigado. Boa noite.
Thank you. Obrigado.
Oh, great job. Thanks, mate. See you again next week. Ciao, ciao. Right. Okay. Excellent. Mark Hallsworth, we just did our IMO appointment and we got MGen insurance through Winsurance. So a happy customer there. Thanks, Mark. Mark, you've changed. You were in front of the Aurora Borealis earlier on. Now
can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. And
hey.
Companion on screen, it looked like they were doing this behind your head, but it's a tree, isn't it? You look like you've got some special little ears.
Oh, yes, that's a view from our new hometown.
Is it really?
Yes, that was walking the dog the other morning.
Can you say where? Are you happy to tell us?
Yeah, quite. We're in Penamacora.
Oh, fantastic. Look at that view, everybody. That's better than the Northern Lights, I would say. He actually lives there. Fantastic. Well done, Mark. Thank you very much. And how easy was it to get you insurance?
It was very easy. Everything, well, if you've got a bit of time, everything happened pretty quick because we got our visa in 3 weeks, and then we actually got our IMA appointments with our visa, and our visa started on the 1st of October, and our IMA appointments were the other day on the 18th.
November.
So we arrived here, and with the help of Gilda's team, it was a bit of a, after a week or so of settling in, it was a bit of a scrabble to get everything together.
Yes.
In time, because there was change, obviously the health insurance instead of the travel insurance, and so there's one thing I would say that people need to be aware of.
Yeah.
There is a difference with the documents that you need for your residency than you do for your visa. It's not just the same set of things and everything is exactly the same. There are things that you need to put into place once you get here, and that caught us out a little bit because our time has been pretty short, and when you're battling Portuguese bureaucracy and the language barrier and just trying to work everything out, and one thing that did really trip us up was the Atestado do Morado.
Oh yes, yeah.
We needed to drag 3 Portuguese voters from the little Junta de Freguesia for Aguas to the place that was only open for 2 hours one night a week, to get them to sign to say that we lived there.
Some new Portuguese friends.
Well, we didn't.
Well, we didn't because we just haven't had had time.
Right.
So that we actually got over that. And so it's been a pretty frantic few weeks, but what I would say to people is don't think that it's all done once you get your visa and that all the documents and all the procedures are the same that you need for your residency.
Right.
It's not just rubber stamping. There are other things you have to do, like your health insurance, like the Atestado, the Morado, and
because we were in separate places, we had to get all the documents signed.
And we got we had a bit of an issue because my wife's appointment was in So we're in Penamacor, and my wife's appointment was in Espinho near Porto.
Yes.
I was in Leiria, and originally the children were in a different city at the same time on the same day.
You asked about this before, I think, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So the story was that they came to Leiria with me because Gilda's team had spoken to them there and said they could come with us. Fantastic. And then when they got there, they said, no, we can't do them today.
Right.
And then they looked on the computer, and in actual fact, they booked the children 3 different appointments, 2 on the same day at the same time, and 1 a week later.
Wow. Okay.
So
very helpful.
We managed. I got done. My daughter got done, but we've actually now got to go over to Figueira da Foz on the 26th.
You get to see a different town every time you go for an appointment.
Yeah. Well, because of the address issue, we're actually picking our residency cards up, so we're doing a tour of the country.
Well done.
To go and pick all the cards up from all the different offices that we've the family have visited to get the residency cards.
But Gilda's team's been really helpful.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you about. Without the help of Gilda and Nunu, by the sound of it, this would have been a whole lot worse.
Never in a million.
Not in a million years.
Would we do it on
you see all these things on the forums that you can do it. You know, you can do it yourself. Why are you getting somebody to do it? Why are you paying all that? Absolutely not a hope in. Even
we're quite clued up, aren't we?
Even when we went to get our visa, in the last 2 weeks before we went to the visa appointment, they had changed it so that your criminal record check needed an apostille.
Yeah.
And these things are changing all the time. And Gilda's team have been great. Not only the language barrier, but the procedures of everything. There's never in a million years could we have done this. Never in a million years.
I think we can take that as a testimonial tonight, Gilda. What do you reckon?
Yes, I'm touched
Glowing.
by your words. Yeah, I will pass to the stream. I saw while you were talking, I just checked and I see how many people were involved with your process because of the different IMA offices. So I'm glad to know that everything turned well.
That's wonderful.
Well,
Thank you.
It's been a bit of, to be honest, it's not your fault, but the whole thing is turned into a bit of a logistical nightmare because Fig de Foz is 3 hours drive away, and they are because they did my daughter at Leiria when we went there.
Yeah,
we're doing that 3 hour drive, and I know that all they're going to do is scan a dozen documents, take fingerprints and a photograph, and then we come back again.
Yes. On a different note, I actually went to Porto on my own, and I stayed overnight, so I had a nice little holiday.
Well, there you go. There's a silver lining. What mum got
the kids.
A little spa break in Porto. Fantastic.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, good for you. Good for you. Well, thank you both. Sorry, I don't know your name, but Mark and
Jane.
Jane. Thank you, Mark and Jane, for sharing that with us. Totally unannounced, and we didn't know that was unsolicited. But what a lovely reflection on Jill and their expertise there. Thank you very much for saying that, and what a lovely photograph behind you. Penamacor rocks. Fantastic place. Right, okay, thank you, the Hallsworthies, if I may refer to you like that. And Gilda, this Atestado de Morada, what is that?
It's something that proves that you live where you are living.
Yes, right.
But you need to, it's a mess because it depends on from each place, okay? Some places you just need to go and show your rental agreement and they will give you, and some other places they will ask for a witness, and some other places they will ask for 3 witnesses. So it's very difficult. I don't agree with this when they ask for this document, because when they ask for witness, we are talking about foreigners that just arrived. So they don't know anyone.
Yeah.
This is something that it's a procedure that needs to be, in my opinion, of course, to be revised, because it doesn't work well and it puts a lot of stress into people.
It really does, doesn't it? And as the Hallsworth said there, if your freguesia is only open for 2 hours every 2 weeks or something like that, and you've only just arrived, as you say, Gilda, and you haven't made friends with anyone in the village yet, that's difficult. However, I guess from a Casa Portuguesa point of view, if you found somebody a lease rental somewhere It might be that the landlady of the owner of the property might be one of your witnesses, but this is something Casa Portuguesa could help you with. They might not live in the freguesia, though, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
They might not live in the freguesia, so they cannot be witness.
It's got to be somebody from your village. It's a really good bonding process. But
Penamacor's our Camara, which covers the whole area. So if we need to deal with like Camara issues, but there's also a junta de freguesia for Penamacor. We went to see them to try and get some help because they were a larger office with multiple staff, and they said, yeah, we'd have just signed it, no problem, we'd have done it for you.
That's good to know.
But because this was a tiny little, there's three little villages, Aguas, João Perez and Aldeia de Bispo, and they share junta services, and they're open 2 hours on a Tuesday night in one village and 2 hours on a Thursday night in another village. And the people who do the service are just like local councillors, volunteers type things.
Yeah, these are local people. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Very good.
Let me ask you something, Mark. What document did you have?
We had a term of responsibility.
Okay.
And unfortunately, our friends who assigned the term of responsibility for us had a bereavement in the family, and they're not in country at the moment either.
So that complicated it a little bit.
Yeah.
But we got by that. We did get by.
We thought that was going to be the issue at the Amber appointment. That got glossed over, and it was the children issue that took over.
Yes, it sounds like the Hallsworth. We need to know your handle on the Expats Portugal forum. There may be questions for you over there based on us. But 3 weeks, how about that? That's not too bad, is it? Bit too fast, it sounds like.
Yeah,
it was. We arrived in Penamacor on the 17th of October. We sailed on the 13th, arrived on the 7th. Oh, that was another thing.
Oh yeah.
If we can offer some advice.
So most people fly.
Most people fly in, and for your residency, they ask for evidence that not only that you are living where you are living, but they want to see that you have arrived. The evidence of your travel plans and arrival in the country.
A bit different for Brits who've sailed over and driven.
Oh, that's what we did.
We sailed New Haven to Dieppe,
so they
and drove
toll
down
receipts.
But we didn't know. On the way to keep receipts.
Great information. Thank you, the Hallsworth.
Yes, so keep your receipts.
If you come in by road or sailing, then make sure you've got evidence of how you've come in.
Boarding passes for the sail is one thing that they ask for.
I think, however, even though you've got a stamp in your passport to say you came in through this port, they were looking for specific Portugal. You know, when you actually got into Portugal. So we used our registration for the road tolls. We had some supermarket receipts.
Yes.
So I'd just say to anybody, if you come in, keep everything from your journey on the way here, because you never know what they're going to ask for.
And that's wherever you've come from. It's good advice. Thanks, the Hallsworth. You've been brilliant tonight. Thank you very much for that. We need to move on now. It's 1:45. We've only got 15 minutes left. But thanks very much for all your help this evening. Really appreciate that. And Debbie in Coimbra. Dream Team Debbie, do you want to say this yourself? Because you haven't had your spotlight moment yet with the Dream Team.
Well, Ola from rainy Coimbra, and I am proud to, I don't know if you can see her in the dark. My roommate got here last week.
Hola, roommate.
Probably can't see her in the dark.
She's now on the Dream Team as well.
You would think that after I've been a member of Expats Portugal for so long that I just renewed, so it's more than a year, you would think I'd run out of questions. But I have a question.
Go on, please.
So I'm like 4.5 years away from being eligible to apply for citizenship. However, I'm just wondering, so let's say I took the A2 language course sometime in 2025 and passed the test. Do I need to retake it when I go for citizenship, or how long is that language certificate good? Because I'm afraid of like forgetting everything I learned.
It's very possible, isn't it? Because it's a classroom situation in which you get the A2, isn't it? And a lot of it's very technical, not something you're going to be using every day necessarily. So what's the answer? Does the A2 stand once you've got it?
I don't know. This should be a question for Daniel, but I think once you have the A2 level test, it's forever.
Yeah.
It's like you've done it, and so
hold on to that certificate.
Okay, good to know. Obrigado.
But anyhow, I'm going to confirm this.
Okay, thanks.
Deborah.
That'd be great.
Thank you.
That's a good reason to tune in next week at 9 o'clock for the Dream Team session. I agree, Gilles,
Perfect.
you say, Debbie, the Atestado is a pain. It took me forever to have two neighbours to have the same afternoon off to go with me because my Junta de Freguesia is only open a few afternoons. And that's in Coimbra. And
Yes.
you also add, Debbie, this is great. I'm most definitely wanted my boarding pass from my arrival. So as Mark and Jane said, keep that stuff. Keep that information in a nice folder. And when you turn up, have a nice folder. Make it look like you're on top of the situation and you've got all those documents. It's really helpful when you go to IMA. Anything else, Debbie? How's Rumi settling in? Okay.
Well, it's kind of fun because when I got here, I didn't know anybody. I didn't know anything. I knew I knew nothing. I just arrived and didn't know anything and get lost and everything. So now I'm teaching her stuff. So it's kind of fun to be imparting that information. And I'm finding that I can speak enough of the language to help. Like we went to her bank to get her ATM card, and we went to the SMTUC to get her bus pass, and we went to the tourist office to get some, and I'm finding I speak just enough that I can tell them what she needs.
Always more than you realize, isn't it? And especially when
yes.
you're in a situation like that. You're the expert now. You're the local. And then you've been doing that. She's standing on the shoulders of giants. So big welcome, bem-vindo to your roommate there, and thanks, Debbie, for your input tonight. Much appreciated. Let's move on. Cheers, Debbie. Hello, Expats Portugal. Thomas from Slovakia here. I have a tax-related question, probably for you, Gilda. We might have to refer this to Pedro, of course. I work as a contractor and run my own business here. If I move to Portugal for a longer time and my business stays in Slovakia, do I have to pay the progressive taxes, 42% in my case, or is there a legal way to cut the tax rate down, maybe by applying for the NHR 2.0? Yeah, the much talked about NHR 2.0. Is it worth scheduling an appointment with Pedro for that, Gilda, to go through the specifics for Thomas, do you think?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Because this seems to be a never-ending story with this NHR 2.0.
Okay, so we need the specifics. Find EI and ask for Pedro specifically, Thomas, to get the
I'm going to put here the email.
the best. Thank you very much for that. Diana B has added Quinta de Pomar to my list of must visits following the big cheese news. What else have we got here? Thank you for the renewal, Debbie. Yes, by the way, from admin, the voice of admin says, thank you for the renewal, Debbie. We need you and we appreciate it. And it's lovely to have you here. Pedro was great, says Debbie, as well. This is the gentleman we're talking about for you, Thomas. Pedro was great. And I had my NHR in 2 days. He's that good. So there you go, Thomas, that information. Pedro.franco at emigrant.pt. That's in the chat now so that you can pick it up from there. I am going to come back and ask all of you, Dream Team, what your favorite cheese is. It's funny, isn't it? Because cheese is supposed to make you dream, the Dream Team. We'll find out if that's true or not. One for Sarah from YouTube. Sus, you were asking over there if you can ask questions. Yes, you can. We do prioritize Expats Portugal members here over on Zoom. So it's a good reason to become a premium member. You can do that now at expatsportugal.com. One for you, Sarah, from JP earlier on. This is an interesting one that we've not had before. How many times a day does the currency rate change? Obrigado, JP in Porto. How does it work, Sarah?
Wow, how many times a day? I mean, it changes constantly.
Yeah.
I mean, there's probably some data on average, but it can vary every day. It's changing every second.
Yeah.
To be honest.
And you can, for JP's sake, if JP wants a particular rate, that can be logged, can't it, to do a transaction at a particular rate, or to make a contract to buy at a certain rate as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can monitor the rates for a specific rate. We can, as I said, if you don't want to buy all your euros, or some clients buy half, a quarter of what they need to spread that risk. The other choices, which are quite good for property purchases, obviously, if you're buying a property, you can often complete in 6, 12 weeks time, if that can be extended. We can fix the rate today for a future date. We only need a 10% deposit. It's not a cost or a charge, but it fixes the rate. Then you pay the remaining 90% when you need the money. We send it all out, but it's on the rate you've agreed today. Obviously, the rate does move in your favor within that time you are locked into the rate. It's more of it helps either lock into a favorable rate right now. It helps you manage your budgets because you know exactly how much that property is going to cost. So it's more really what we call kind of risk management tool, really kind of helping you understand how much things are going to cost you, especially when it's a property purchase, when we're talking about large sums of money.
Yeah.
But the benefit sometimes with that kind of contract of only fixing the rate with a deposit for us is that for some clients, maybe your money's in, you know, a high interest bearing account and you don't want to remove it from that, but you want to take advantage of the rate. So that's another way of doing that with only a small amount upfront.
There you go. It does sound a rather old-fashioned question, doesn't it? And probably in the black and white days, the currency rate did probably change twice a day or something, doesn't it? The rate is or for the week, maybe back in the day.
No, well, I don't know off the top of my head going that far back in history, but what usually happens when you talk about travel money historically, sort of, you know, if you went to your bank, or I don't know if it's the same in America, but in the UK, we've got obviously different outlets that do that. You know, they would set, because I used to do that in my summer job. And what would happen is the rates would come through on the morning and they'd be set for that day. So
Trade on the day. Yeah.
Whether the rate changed at all, we were given a set rate for the day, and that's what we would sell your travel money at.
That's quite vulnerable, isn't it? In a way as well.
Well, small amount. I mean, for tourist money, what our customers were buying was some small amounts of money. So really, you're only talking about, you know, a few cents or a few pounds difference, really, in the grand scheme of things.
Yes.
And I suppose maybe for sort of banks, and they've bought already their money up front potentially, especially with the cash. We already had the money.
Good answer, Sarah. Thank you for that. And a good question, JP in Porto tonight. Right. Sussy wanted to ask the question. I don't know if we can answer this because I don't know who these people are. I'm wondering about opinions on companies like Immigrant Invest. Some people I've not heard of. I don't know who that is. My wife and I are committed to moving to Portugal, and I'm wondering if a company like this is worth the money. What I suggest you do, Sus, is become an Expats Portugal member, go onto the forum and get the counsel of other people who've moved to Portugal to see if they know anything about that company. Nunu, are you off?
Sorry, Carl. Yeah, I need to go because I have
favorite cheese. What's your favorite cheese?
Serra da Estrela ou azeitão. They are
Thank you very
pretty
much. Okay,
similar.
make a note, everybody. That's Nunu's Christmas present. Although
Sorry, I need to go to the
Bye.
airport, pick
Ciao, ciao.
up my amazing and beautiful daughter.
yes, of course
Ciao,
you do. Ciao, ciao, boa noite. Thank you very much. And he, as I recall, will be going in an electric vehicle. João Amaral, 100,000 electric vehicles on the roads of Portugal. What's your? How have you responded to that news? Are you a fan of the electric?
I'm not a fan, but I'm not against the electrics. I think electrics are very good for some people in some occasions.
Yes.
I believe more the electric, as we know today, for cities, not for long trips. I think it's a very good solution for some people and some uses. Okay,
very good.
But I think people don't know anything about electric cars. The people who talks bad about them, and they don't even try it to talk as some people talk about them.
I agree.
It's a great car for some people.
It's a culture war subject for sure, isn't it? Unfortunately. So you can find out about that and many other things with João Amaral. And the Rorishkar's email address is in the chat there. Thank you very much for that, João, and your view on that. But it's quite a milestone, 100,000 electric vehicles here on the roads of Portugal. Thanks, João, for being here tonight. Let's see if we can answer everything that's been asked of us this evening before we finish and go to the big cheese question. My Italian Therapy, Gina Fiore, is back on YouTube. You guys rock in capital letters. Thank you. Igualmente. I am counting down and working with Gilda's office too. Tax appointment next. Life is good. Gina in upstate New York, USA, moving to Portugal. So a message, maybe you could share that with the team tomorrow, Gilda, from Italian Therapy, Gina, or just Gina Fiore, which is a great name, isn't it? Good afternoon from Texas. Is it good night in Portugal? It is, Anya. Good evening to you. For reference to the above question, would be a D8 visa from Texas, USA, if that matters. I think, you've got my answer there. I think you heard it and you said, all right, thank you for your time. Yes, so sign up and ask that question of immigrant investors. I really don't know what that is. If any of the others on the Dream Team panel tonight do know, do shout out as well. Sarah with a testimonial. The Dream Team are users of the services as well as being the experts here. You've had a great consultation with Pedro, right, Sarah?
Yes, absolutely. No, I agree. I've used all the services, and what Mark was saying, that, you know, with EI as well, they were wonderful with my visa, and definitely would recommend that you use an expert for, you know, coming along to the AIMA appointment. It was just wonderful. And the documents as well. It's very difficult it is to do by yourself. But I've spoken to Pedro recently. We haven't set up the call yet, but that was one of the things he said, was that he would be happy to do a call with me, my accountant, and talk through the options. And I think that's good, because although he sort of understands a little bit UK, not enough,
Yeah,
it's kind of bringing them two together, which I think
you're
is
going to have a
nice.
Zoom with the UK accountant and Pedro. Very good. That's a great idea.
Yes, he does that a lot
Right.
also with Canadians, Americans, because
Wow.
it's very important to coordinate
Yeah,
things.
no, that's true. And it doesn't happen so often, does it? So that is a really good development in this migration space. And how important are you going to feel, Sarah, on that day? I'm here with my UK accountant and my new Portuguese financial advisor. Let the meeting commence. It's a red braces day, isn't it? That one, I think. Okay, brilliant. Thanks for that, Sarah. Final question. It's about the cheeses. I think we've got to everything, and we need to ask, because Portugal has been crowned the winner of the World Cheese Championships in Viseu last weekend. What a great achievement that is. And it is the buttery cheese. That's what the word, I think I'm right in saying, amontillado is buttery. And you take the top off, as we said before. Was that you, LaRonda? Who doesn't like to eat cheese from a cheese pot? I think that was you. Really delicious. I got my children to smell the round of cheese I bought coming home from the supermarket the other evening, which they didn't thank me for. It was like being a kid when you're driving through the country lanes, like, take a good sniff of that. It's good for your sinuses. And it was delicious. It was a Saya that I tried, and I really liked it from over that way. Sarah, are you up to speed on the Portuguese cheese?
I'm not, but I was about to say, I feel like it's like wine. We need a session, and people need to sort of teach me, really. Like the wine. I do go and I love cheese, but I go in and I'm still not sure what I'm buying. It's a real hit or miss. Like I buy some that I don't like so much, and I don't know where to start, to be honest.
Wow, a cheesemonger or a blessed cheesemaker, perhaps. That's another great idea for a webinar. Thank you, Sarah, for that. So you need help.
Yes.
It's a plea for it's a cry for help in the cheese department. Fantastic. So I think we're going to do an apartment, an HOA special on the legal side of buying with Daniel, and now possibly a cheesy webinar as well. João Amaral, thanks, Sarah. What's your favorite cheese? What would you recommend to the newcomer to Portugal?
So I am from the land of the Queijo Serra da Estrela. I am originally from Covilhã. I don't know if anyone knows the city.
Oh yeah.
But my favorite is Azeitão.
Yes.
First, and second, Serra da Estrela.
And that's Azeitão is another one, isn't it? Where you take
it's a buttery,
Yes, the buttery amontillado cheese. Thank you, João, for being here this evening. Much
Thank
appreciated.
you.
Carolina Muralha, what about you?
I would say Serra da Estrela as well, but Sarah, just a word of advice. The smellier the cheese is, the better it is. It's true. It's true.
Yeah, but I mean, how kind of okay is it culturally for Sarah to be leaning into the cheese cabinet and smelling them all? I mean, that gives foreigners a bad name, that sort of behavior, doesn't it?
It's true. Sometimes it's nasty, smells bad, but it tastes very good, like blue cheese, the one that
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
molds.
Yes.
Smells terribly.
Yes, yeah.
It's good.
Okay, all right. So the soft cheeses are really winning tonight. I think we've spoken to everyone apart from Gilda, who I suspect will have a very interesting answer to this question. Gilda Pereira of EI, what's your favorite cheese?
I was really happy with winning that prize of the best cheese in the world, because Portugal is not that, or was not that known for their cheeses, and I think that we have amazing cheeses.
Yes.
You know, I lived in France and I go there often, and you just can compare. We have a lot of variety, and
Oh,
it's
controversial.
amazing. It's
Right.
amazing. So it's like the French wine. They knew the French wine, now they discovered the Portuguese one,
Yes.
and you can see that the Portuguese one are more affordable and even
Well,
better.
that's a great moment to conclude the webinar. Just throw that out
Yes.
there to the whole entire French population that we've got better cheeses here in Portugal than you, and
Yeah.
probably wine as well. Should we just leave
Yes.
that there? Yeah, okay, excellent. Thanks, Gilda. Portuguese cheese now on the map. Jerry, your favorite? Jerry,
Well, living where I live, Carl, Rabasal is the local
Yes.
cheese,
Yes, yes,
and
yes.
it's just divine. And what I wanted to say was that I love that when you go to a restaurant here, they put out, especially if they put out the local cheese, and they usually do, and they usually give you the label on the plate.
Yes.
And sometimes people are a bit suspicious and think it's a rip-off that the restaurant's giving you cheese. But you know what? It'll cost you like €2 or something. It's really just have it and try it, because 99.9% of the time it's delicious.
It is. And if you're ever wondering what that funny smell is in your wardrobe, it's the time you picked up the label from the cheese, isn't it, to remember what it was, and you left it in your pocket in there. Not a good, well, not a good, not a good smell.
I take pictures to
That's
remember.
better. That's a better idea.
Right. A friend from France brought me some of that cheese once, and I put it in the fridge, and I couldn't sleep because of the smell. So I got up and I put it in the garage, and I still couldn't sleep because of the smell. And so eventually I threw it out. And then years later, I'm on a business trip in France or something, and my guests take me to dinner, and guess what comes out? This cheese.
Not the same one.
It was the same smell, that's for sure,
Okay.
right?
Right.
And you're doing all that, right? And I think, well, I've got to be polite. I've got to try it. And you know what? It was delicious. It was really, really delicious. So I 100% agree with Carolina. The smellier, the better.
And can we have a cheese webinar?
Yes, we'll have a cheese webinar.
Woo!
Yeah, but
Fantastic.
before we do that, next week, as you've already mentioned, we have Sarah, and we'll talk about sort of recent developments, particularly with the dollar and rates of exchange, and how to move your money safely and securely and cost effectively. Then we have the dream, followed by the dream team. Then on Saturday, guess what? It's the first Saturday of the month. And what does that mean, Carl? It means the Hank and Connie show.
Absolutely.
So, on Saturday at 8 p.m., I saw Hank and Connie. Well, there's Connie. And Connie, I'm a little bit worried. Has Hank died? Because I don't think I've seen him move for the last hour or so. No, he's still alive. Or are you just moving his hand?
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah. And then the following week, it's our Christmas quiz.
How about that?
At 7:30, and that will be hosted by Philomena. So lots to talk about and hopefully learn a little bit more about Portugal during that quiz.
Love the show and the
Carl and Jerry. Can I interrupt?
Please.
Yes.
Jerry, the last the first Saturday in December is the 7th. That's when our
point of order, Chairman. Yes, that's right, isn't it? There are
next week is November 30th. Let's not confuse people.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. So next week, I'll say it again. Next Thursday, we have Sarah, and we're going to talk about money exchange. Then we'll have the Dream Team following. And then the following week, we'll have the Christmas quiz, and then the Dream Team following. And then the Saturday after that, we will have Connie and her deputy assistant IT trainee, Hank.
Who will be out of hibernation by then, I think. Okay, thanks a lot, Jerry. Thanks, Dream Team. You've been brilliant.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.